Hey, and welcome back to your number one source for cozy gaming and design content. I'm Nick, and today we're going to take a look at probably the best browser I have ever tried. So, let's get into it. Chances are you're probably using either Google Chrome, Safari, or Firefox to browse the web on whatever device you're using. We're going to focus on PCs for this video, but the general idea of a browser is one that's familiar to a lot of people. It's a program that you use to go online and search for things. And that's not the same thing as a search engine. You can think of a browser kind of like a wrapper that facilitates a search engine. Now, if you're like a lot of people, you probably don't really care about which browser you're using, or even really put much thought into the differences between them, though you probably still know that Edge is shit. If that's the case, then you also probably haven't put much time into finding new browsers which let you do things differently from the big three. On the whole, browsers are pretty boring. There isn't much innovation going on, and for the most part, they're really just a way for big companies to get some of that sweet data from you. However, not everybody thinks that way about browsers. Some people think they can be fun and unique products which help you to improve your workflow and make the time that you spend on the internet just a little smoother and more enjoyable. And that is what the team over at ooorrr are. A group of very talented, very passionate people who care about making a great browser. Before we continue, this video is going to focus on free browsers. There are paid options, and a generally good rule of thumb is that if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. However, it gets a bit more complicated, so let's keep going. Now, this video is not sponsored. I've not talked to the team directly, nor do they have any idea that I'm making this video. They simply make a great product for free, and I want all of you to be aware of it, because it's genuinely amazing to me that it's not a major contender for the most popular browser. Now, there are some reasons for that, and we will get into it in just a bit, but first, let me tell you about what makes this browser different. To start with, we have the team's number one priority when it comes to differentiation: capital P, privacy. They make it very clear in no uncertain terms that they will not steal your data. They claim that they don't track your browsing, they don't collect any diagnostic data unless you explicitly choose to let them, and, arguably the most important, they don't sell your data to third parties, because in theory they don't have it. Personalized user data is the primary way most browsers make money. In fact, it's the primary way most tech companies make money. Google, Facebook, and pretty much any other large tech company aren't successful because they make amazing products and charge you, the user, what they're worth. They're successful because they have a lot of valuable data that advertisers are extremely eager to get their hands on. Because these companies are publicly traded, they quite literally, at least here in the US, effectively have a legal obligation to sell this data. Otherwise, shareholders will do the only thing shareholders know how to do, and throw a hissy fit. So any browser, or product really, that one of these companies sell you, especially if it's particularly affordable or free, is very likely collecting and selling all the data that it can about you. Now, you may have noticed that, in general, people don't like that. And where there's a thing consumers don't like, there's a potential market in not doing that thing. And that is where ooorrr comes in. Like I said, their main selling point is that they do and will not ever collect or sell your data. Now, to be clear, this is just what they're saying, and we have to trust them on that. Ultimately, unless a program is fully open source, there's no way to guarantee what's happening with your sensitive data. At the end of the day, it's up to you what you want to use and who you want to trust. I personally have never really been particularly bothered by the idea of Google knowing what I do and selling that to advertisers, but I know a lot of people are, and for good reason, and ooorrr claims to go against the grain in that regard. However, it ultimately is up to you whether or not you believe them on that. To put all my cards on the table, I'm a tech enthusiast, and I love trying new and interesting products, so I'm coming at this from that perspective. I think it's super cool if their claims are true, and I haven't heard anything conclusive about them not being true. But that honestly isn't my number one concern. I'm much more interested in trying cool new things and seeing where tech is going. However, like I said at the start of this video, if the product is free, you likely are the product. And realistically, there is no reason to trust ARK's claims over those of Google, Apple, Amazon, PIA, or any other company that says, "Oh yeah, no, totally, I swear, we don't sell your data, we don't track your data, we don't even have your data." At the end of the day, if you take a hard stance on that, this browser isn't going to be for you, because I can give you absolutely no guarantee that your data is definitely safe. But with that being said, if you're still interested to learn about ARK, let's get into it. Aside from their stance on data privacy, they're looking to totally redesign how browsers look and feel. If you're watching this video on a browser right now, chances are it looks a little something like this. Now, the theming and specific content will be different, obviously, but for the most part, all mainstream browsers look like this. Tabs on the top with content underneath, and everything opens up in its own separate little isolated page. However, those of you who do a lot of tab hopping will know that this isn't exactly the most efficient way to organize your tabs. If you have too many open at once, it can get really difficult to see what each one is individually without clicking through all of them to figure it out. Plus, the theme controls that you have on Chrome and other browsers are rather limited. Sure, you can kind of get custom, and for the most part it's functional, but the theme that you choose doesn't affect any sites that aren't made by the maker of the browser. For example, a theme that you set for Chrome will carry over to Gmail, but it wouldn't work on some other site that Google doesn't own. And the options that you have for rearranging your windows are extremely limited as well. Most of the time, unless you want to open a page on a totally separate window, you can only really have one page open at once, which you might think would be fine, but for people who do a lot of research or need to reference between multiple different pages, this can be very limiting on a single screen. ARK claims to change all of those things. To start, they let you have multiple different pages, which they call spaces. These you can think of like different windows, but instead of all being separated out and interfering with one another on your desktop, they're stacked within the browser to allow you to switch between them seamlessly. If you wanted, you could have one space for your work tabs and do all your work-related browsing there. Then you could have another space solely for video. All your streaming services are pinned to that space, and you have quick access to them whenever you want. Then you could also have a space for things like Reddit and forums that you frequent, and another one for social media. All these different spaces let you segment out your workflow and seamlessly switch between them at will. It's really quite intuitive, but I think the best part about it is that you don't need to use this one feature to benefit. Remember what I was saying about tab organization being difficult? Well, you can do effectively the same thing as spaces with their folders feature. If the idea of having multiple spaces doesn't interest you, that's totally fine. You can still have the exact same level of segmentation, but all in one space, and instead place all your different tabs that you want to access into different folders, which you can name whatever you find most intuitive. At its core, what really sets ARK apart from its competitors is this intuitive and custom nature. The focus on letting you make your browser work for you, instead of you having to conform to whatever conventions the UX UI people over at Google decided was best for you. Most of its unique aspects can be boiled down to tab management, and if you want to be reductive, sure, that's really all it is. It's letting you decide how you want to interact with your tabs. At least that's what I would say, if not for the stellar Boosts feature. This is probably the biggest draw to me. Have you ever been on a website and thought, I hate having that big chunk of text screaming at me to explore new accounts. Boom, zap that shit. Or maybe you don't like the font they used. No problem, change it. One of the best uses for this that I found was on Instagram. The interface for Instagram on a computer is frankly bad. But with ARK, if I don't like it, I can change it. And that's amazing to me. Now, to be clear, I'm sure there's ways to do something like this on Chrome. After all, ARK is based on Chromium. So I wouldn't be surprised if you could do effectively this in Chrome too. But the difference is that they build tools for it. if you can do it in Chrome, I almost guarantee you that you need to either know how to code or be willing to scour the internet trying to figure it out. Ultimately, what I love about Arc is that it kind of just succeeds at what Apple have always been saying about their products. It just works. It's incredibly intuitive, and the thing that I think would be the biggest drag for a lot of people, moving all your bookmarks and all the stuff that's related to migrating over from another browser, is all taken care of, and it's done with the same level of care. They make it extremely easy to port over all your existing bookmarks, and it only took me a couple of hours of using it before I actually got the hang of it. It's simple in all the right places, while still giving you the power and ability to make it yours. You can customize everything from the look and feel of the spaces to the literal content on the websites that you frequent. And you can even use boosts made by other people if you don't feel like making your own. Listen, it's not perfect. There are things about Arc that I'm not a huge fan of. For one, the fact that I can't know for sure if my sensitive data is actually safe. I also think the color picker that they use is just a bit unintuitive, and while they do let you customize a lot of things, it's all kind of with that Apple ethos. If I wanted my windows to all have pointed corners, for instance, instead of rounded, I can't do that. If I wanted to change the icons, I can't do that either. So there are certainly limitations that stem from them being a largely Apple-focused company. They only recently brought the Windows version out of beta, so their main market has been Apple people. That means that while they are definitely trying to make an app for power users, it can only be so powerful before their main user base gets frustrated and leaves. But I think the functionality they offer is well worth any drawbacks. And one of the largest drawbacks in the past has been the fact that Arc used to only be available for Mac, but that isn't the case anymore. Like I said, they recently released the Windows version, and I can tell you it runs perfectly well. And if you're someone who uses both Mac and Windows, the cross-device syncing is amazing, and really helpful for making sure you have a cohesive experience regardless of what you're browsing on. And you can decide if you want that feature or not. Now, the last link left is mobile browsing on Android, so hopefully that comes out sooner rather than later. The last thing I want to touch on is the team themselves. They're committed to releasing a new feature every week, and with every release, they have a great little video that goes along with it to explain what's new. Now, obviously, these aren't all going to be hugely visible changes. In fact, it's pretty similar to how video game patches and updates are. Some are huge and game-changing features, and others are stability improvements or more niche features. But either way, they are always improving, and it's very clear that they're very passionate about their goal and making this a great product. There are a ton of features that I didn't touch on here, like the nice little touches of personality, things like letting you pop a video out and let it play in a little window while you browse, just like on mobile, or the fact that they have a built-in notepad that you can pull up right next to your content. I do have one more feature that I want to touch on in a little bit more depth than I did with the other things in this section of the video, and that's the AI-assisted control find feature. This is something that I kind of missed in my original, in my first few forays into this browser and in my overall daily use, because quite frankly I don't really use Control F very often, and when I was setting up Arc, I just turned off all the AI features because I saw AI and I was like, ew, get that out of here. I don't want AI. But after having visited their website and seen kind of their marketing around all this stuff, I noticed one use case that they had for this AI Control F feature. Hey, bud. Can you just stay right there? I noticed one kind of use case that they had for this AI feature, which was combing through a recipe sheet, which is something that I do actually pretty often. That was something that I saw on their website and I was like, oh, that might actually be useful for me. And so okay, see you later. That was something that I found might actually be useful for me. And so I went and I wanted to try that out. So I turned on the AI features and stuff and started messing around with Control F. And one, it works great on recipes. Recipes are, I think, a really good example of specifically that use case because they have a lot of clear information kind of very clearly stated. So it's relatively easy for an AI to just go over the web page and find specific information like, oh, how many calories are in this this recipe? How long might it take me to make? Other than the recipe use case, I realized I could probably use that same functionality in one other thing that I do rather often, and get frustrated at rather often, and that is combing through GitHub pages and like homebrew app, how to install instructions. I'm sure for those of you who go on GitHub all the time, it's probably extremely straightforward how to install things and what plugins you need and where to get those. However, for a layman like me who kind of just wants the app to work, it's not super obvious. And so this feature is actually really useful for combing through all of the text that's really just written by some developer somewhere, so it's not necessarily written in the best, most understandable way. And so it's really nice to be able to just ask it, how do I install this app? For somebody who just kind of wants to get the app going and up and running, I think it can be a pretty useful tool to summarize difficult to understand instructions. And one last use case that I'm using right now actually is that, okay, so for a future video, I'm doing some research into the sexualization of women in video games. And I want this to be a well-researched and well-understood topic on my side, because it's all fun in games to speculate and talk from a place of authority that I don't necessarily actually have for products and things that don't matter, like video games. However, when I am me, a man talking about women in games, I want to make sure that I know what I'm talking about. So I'm doing a lot of research for that video. More research than I generally do in my life at all. I don't have a whole lot of experience doing research, and something that I've found this feature to be extremely helpful for is combing through research and figuring out if it's credible, asking it, hey, who wrote this? Is that journal peer-reviewed? Is this trustworthy? I'm not particularly familiar with combing through research papers and where to find all this information. And before you say, oh, well, that would mean that you're not learning how to read a research paper, I would push back on that, because specifically with this, they don't just give you an answer. They don't just have the AI tell you an answer. They have it tell you an answer and then show you where it got that information from, and it can define things and jargon within the overall paper that I'm not particularly familiar with. I think it just helps cut down on those kind of stupid questions that people like me might ask and get tripped up on when reading a research, and might kind of affect our understanding of the research. And importantly, like I said, I think it's important that it tells you where it's getting this information from, and I think that's a really good implementation of AI, to give you an answer but also tell and show you where it got that answer from, and having it kind of be localized to a single web page so that it's not pulling from random sources to get you this information. And yeah, I think this is a fairly good implementation of AI into a use case that I think makes a lot of sense for it, and a use case where we're not putting too much trust in it, because it does, again, show you where it's getting that information. It tells you and it shows you where this information is from. So I think this is, one, a really good feature. It's extremely useful, but it's also, I think, done really well. I think it shows the ARC team's understanding of these are the things that AI can be really strong in, but then also we know what AI can be not so strong in. We know the pitfalls, the potential pitfalls of AI, and we want to avoid that. And I think that's really good. I think that's kind of a good kind of showcase of the team's knowledge and forethought, and not simply moving fast and breaking things. They're kind of thinking through this more than the typical Silicon Valley company might. But yeah, I've gone on a whole long side tangent here. The point is, it's a really cool feature. I think it's really useful. And if you didn't know that it existed, like I didn't know that it existed, I just wanted to make sure that you were aware, and as much as I hate to say it, maybe we shouldn't necessarily just ignore AI features and things like this, because they can be useful, they can be done well. We just have to be careful. That's really all I wanted to say. Cool feature, awesome, go check it out. But that's it for this. We'll get back to the video, and we'll get back to wrapping up the video. But if you're interested, I say give it a shot. That's one of my favorite things about trying new tech products, finding all the cool features and interesting little quirks. The sense of discovery in tech can be amazing, and it's something you don't necessarily get with a lot of tech these days because it's generally all so self-similar. But I think Arc does a pretty good job of bringing some of that back. Plus, it's free. They seem like passionate people, and in the years they've been operating, I haven't heard anything about any nefarious data practices. So if you're willing to trust them to not steal your browsing data, I don't think you'll be disappointed. It's a great product with a great team with great ideas. I never thought I would be evangelizing about a browser, but this, in my opinion, is a game changer. All the normal capitalism caveats apply here, but I don't think there are many browsers out there doing what they're doing. And if you're anything like me, once you try, you really won't want to go back. I genuinely didn't even think for a second about switching back to Chrome, my previous favorite browser. But that's it for today's video. I hope you found it informative and maybe a little fun. But let me know in the comments if you're interested in Arc, and I'll make sure to leave a link in the description to check it out. The only kickback I get from that is that they give you different icons for referrals. That's it. So if you're interested, go ahead and check it out. Other than that though, I hope you have a great day and happy browsing.